Hello. Hi, everyone. Back again for another live. Thank you so much to everybody who watched the Flash episode last week. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm really proud of that one. And there's another new episode of The Flash tomorrow. This one's going to be super cool. So don't miss it. But today I wanted to talk to you about another show I love. Let me see if I can get a friend to join me. It's not a secret. It's Bitsy. I just.
Hi!
Hi!
I
Look
missed
so
you.
glamorous.
I actually got dressed up for this. It's been a while. I was like, how do I make a...
Wait, what are you wearing?
I'm wearing something from A-List, actually. Or
It looks
A-List.
lovely. Very floral for spring. I might floral.
You look gorgeous too. Hi.
Thank you. Brazil, India.
Brazil.
Wow.
Big Grimm fans too, I will say. I learned how to say thank you in Portuguese, obrigada, because Grimm was so big in Brazil.
That's awesome. You speak other languages.
I speak Spanish. I don't speak Portuguese. And just Spanish and English. Yeah.
Got it. Hold for the helicopter. It's an exciting day here.
Can you...
Oh, wait, hold on. Say that again.
No.
Wait, you're breaking up. No. It might. I don't know if it's on my end or your
What?
end. Wait. Can you guys hear Bitsy? Can you respond in the comments and let me know if you hear Bitsy? Loved Grimm. Guys, I loved Grimm too.
Well, you were on Grimm.
I was going to say Bitsy and I wouldn't be friends but for that show.
Bella in your trailer. Everybody should watch Danielle's episode. It was season 1, and she played like a sexy kind of fire dancer, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Thank goodness for a whole crew of people to make it look like I actually knew how to fire dance. All right, everybody's saying that they can hear Bitsy. Are you doing the Chicago Comic-Con in August? Well, I have good news. I'm going to do Chicago Comic-Con. Are you? Guys, we're coming to Chicago.
We should stay an extra day and just go and wander around and party and have wine. Yeah.
Yes, I would love that. I used to live in Chicago. I used to live in a suburb of Chicago.
Are you both days? I'm only doing Saturday, August 12th.
I suspect I know I'm doing Saturday. I'm sure I will do 2 days. For me, it's easier to do, it's better to do a Friday and a Saturday with the kids. But yes, I'm so excited. This is great news. We're all going to be in Chicago in August.
With the two of us.
I would love that. Oh my gosh, we should ask.
I wanted to say something really quickly because I know we're going to talk about Superman and Lois, but I just wanted to give Danielle a shout out because I finally was able to sit down and watch her 5th episode directing The Flash, and I had some notes that I just wanted to say the things I love, and yes, I have my laptop pulled up. I love the beginning party scene with the cider and the champagne that turned everyone into zombies. I thought that was so fun. And then I was also, of course, thinking like, that is pretty much how I feel when I drink too much champagne the next day. I just did such a great job, and the cast and the writers did an amazing job. And then I was laughing out loud. What's the bad guy's name again? The like black slime bad guy. I thought he was so funny with all the directing soundstage stuff. It was so funny. And it was,
that was such a cool bit, like sort of creating that, and it was so fun. It's not like something we'd ever done on the show before, which I thought was
really unpredictable. I felt like there were a lot of twists and turns, and you're like, oh wait, you're on a soundstage. What? Oh wait, now you're in the woods with Stephen Amell's back. Like, and then I just really loved the end scene too. I felt like it was so poignant between Stephen and Grant, and then also I'm sure even more so with Grant knowing that, you know, the series is.
That was, I know, and that was a throwback. They'd done in at least 1 or 2 other crossovers. They'd sort of ended with scenes with the two of them at a bar drinking together. So, you know, as much as we could, we sort of tried to pay homage to those as well.
Anyway, it was great, and I'm proud of
you. Well, Thank you. We had a lot of fun with that one. It was, I mean, you know, to have that cast back, it was such a great script.
Of
It was
course.
a lot of fun. Thank you for watching. Now, in the meantime, what can you tell us about Superman and
It
Lois,
is.
which is airing
We're
tonight?
on tonight. I don't know how many of the Flash fans have watched our show. It was really confusing.
If you haven't, now's a
It's
great
really
time to jump in.
really proud of it. I love the way that our show is shot, and I love the look of it. It's dramatic. We shoot in widescreen. Um,
And I feel like they've done such a good job with all of your sets and locations too. Like the fact that they built Smallville for you guys is pretty incredible.
The backlot for Smallville is so fun. It feels like, you know, like a mini tour of one of these actual studio lots. It's great. And then they also built an exterior farmhouse set that is being moved, assuming we get picked up for a season 4, which hasn't been announced yet. We're all hopeful. Who knows? But that set's actually moving. But that was a beautiful set too. And I think I can say where it was now that we're not filming it there anymore. But it was inside a bird sanctuary. So, you know me, I get the giggles all the time, even serious stuff. And there was, first of all, there's just flocks of geese who would just start honking in the middle of, you know, a really serious scene. And then next thing you know, I'm like, I can't. And I'm just like, no, I'm sorry, I can't. And then there were cornfields around us at that location. And again, we're in the middle of a bird sanctuary. There are a lot of birds around. There was a pheasant or two, but definitely a pheasant that lived right in the cornfields by that exterior farmhouse set. And it made the funniest noises that as soon as anyone heard the pheasant, they're like, all right, Bitsy, no, we're done. Like, oh, I couldn't handle it. It was just so silly.
I didn't know it was a bird sanctuary.
Yeah, it was.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there were eagles. I mean, you know what it's like in Canada. There's eagles everywhere. It's so, when I first came up here for the Flash, actually the Flash and Supergirl, for the crossover I did in 2018, and then I did more crossovers in 2019. But I was, you know, coming from California, I hadn't really spent any time in Canada, and as an American, you're not as used to, or at least where I lived, not as used to seeing just bald eagles everywhere. And in Vancouver, they are everywhere, like to the point where now I don't even think anything of it. Like maybe I'll just kind of think, oh, an eagle, and that's it. And the first time I saw one, I was like, everybody look, an eagle.
I know you get your phone out, you're like, this is incredible.
But yeah, so for this season, and again, check out Superman and Lois if you haven't. It was a little confusing season 1 as to the whole Arrowverse yes or no aspect. And I think part of what made it so difficult for us is that we were supposed to film our pilot in March of 2020. That obviously didn't happen.
Right.
The height of COVID. And then we started filming in October, and that year we were supposed to do a crossover with Batwoman, which I was excited about, working with Julia. And then we couldn't do it with the COVID protocols. So, but the show's great. It's very grounded. Todd Helbing is our creator. I know he was a showrunner. He was a writer on The Flash and also show ran. We both adore him. And Brent Fletcher is my co-runner for this season, and he wrote on like Friday. So I always sort of feel like when I'm pitching it to someone, it's like a superhero show meets Friday Night Lights. It's really grounded. And I don't think this is giving anything away, but for this season, my character, Lois Lane, is diagnosed with pretty aggressive breast cancer. And it was really intense. And I remember when Todd first pitched it to me when I was in Wales for a con in August, I was a little hesitant at first because I thought, okay, this is a really serious storyline, and are people going to be into it because we are a superhero show? But I would say the vast majority of the fans, cancer is one of those things that has really touched all of us. And there are fans who are going through it right now, who are, you know, tweeting to me from chemotherapy. It's so intense. People who've lost family members, spouses, you know, even children. It's just one of those, you know, my grandfather died of cancer when he was only 76. So overall, the response has been really overwhelmingly positive, and I'm really grateful to Todd and Brent for giving me such a powerful and difficult storyline. And then and then it's cool too, because this is the first time we've really seen Superman a little bit at a loss for what to do, because he can save everyone and he can
He was
Yeah,
fix
and now he can't.
everything. And so how has this storyline been for you to film? I mean, I know it's a lot heavier in terms of the content. Like, was it a good season overall?
Yeah, we only did 13 episodes this season, and I delve a little bit more into it, but I was really impressed with our writers and producers for taking it as seriously as I was too. If anything, I mean, you know this, I interviewed and spoke to probably a dozen women who had had breast cancer, or actively were still actually going through chemotherapy, who had breast cancer. And it was really intense. And I just kept sort of every time I was thinking, this is too much. It's a huge burden, because I wanted so much in my performance to honor their journeys and those of their families who were obviously going through this with them. But it was more than anything, it was just incredibly inspiring. There's a woman who I talked to a few times. She lives in Washington. Her name is Tiffany, and she was diagnosed in her early 30s. So one of the things she wanted to say was, it's important for women to get, and men get breast cancer too. That's not as widely known. But to really start getting mammograms earlier than later, because there's another woman I spoke to named Jennifer, who she was diagnosed in her late 20s. I mean, it's scary stuff. And you really have to, if you sense anything wrong, any pain, anything out of the normal, know how to do breast checks and just go. Better safe than sorry. And also, and I wish that sometimes healthcare, both in the US and in other countries, was a little bit better. But if you go to a doctor and you know your body better than anyone else, and you go to a doctor and somebody waves you off like, no, it's nothing, go get a second opinion. Because I talked to 2 women for whom the second opinion doctors were the ones who affirmed that they actually did have breast cancer. So
Wow.
A really intense season. I'm so grateful for Tyler. He and I work so well together. We're such close friends, and having a partner like that who's so present and so giving. We had a lot of emotional stuff together, and it's always easy when we have each other, because we're so tuned in. And so overall, it was a wonderful.
But what about the scene where you had to tell him you had cancer, because he was Superman at that moment? Like, was he on wires? Where did they have him?
So that was when I first, I don't tell him. That was a really intense episode, directed by Elizabeth Henstridge from Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's so lovely and wonderful. That was her second episode directing for us. And it was episode 2 of season 3. And there's this judge who, again, intense. She is about to take her own life. We were filming, it's Metropolis, but we were filming at the Vancouver Art Gallery. And it was really intense because her stunt double was rigged up there on this little ledge on the side of the building. And Lois basically figures out he is in a really dire situation, and she runs up there, and the judges, Lois appeals to her by saying, I know what you're going through, and I know how hard it is. And she's kind of like, how could you know? And this is when I first say it out loud. By this point, Superman has arrived, and I just had an eye line for that, actually, because they didn't have Tyler on stunts. That was green screen. And then he and I shot more towards the end of the day, the sort of reunion. But I basically tell this woman I have aggressive breast cancer, and Superman is hovering nearby. So I'm talking to her also at some point, lock eyes with him, like, I'm sorry you're finding out this way. But yeah, it was intense. That was a great episode. It's an emotion.
It really does make a
What?
difference. I was gonna say, it does make such a difference when you have a good scene partner and someone who can be present with you. It makes it so much easier.
I don't even know what it would have been like without him. And a funny story about our casting, because he and I really do have great chemistry on screen. We had not met each other before we were cast. David Rappaport, who's both of ours, who's an amazing casting director, cast me separately, but Tyler had already played Superman on a couple Supergirl episodes.
Yes.
So when I first flew up there, first of all, I was heavily pregnant. It was 2018, and I flew up to play Lois, and I just remember thinking, please let this guy not be rude, I just was like praying that we had good chemistry on set. And my first day as Lois was on The Flash, and we were shooting that scene under the red truck, and Melissa Benoist was there, and Tyler and I just from the get-go, it was like, okay, I'm Lois and you're Clark. And so I've been really, really fortunate in that respect.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I mean, it's so obvious on camera. It makes it, I mean, I know the behind the scenes how much easier it makes it, but I also feel like it really reads on the show too.
Yeah.
Is my service still terrible? If I
Your
don't hear,
reception
is it better?
Italy, my husband, you're greeting from Italy. My husband, David Gentoli, who is an actor, is learning Italian right now, and he's hoping to get his citizenship.
I feel like he knows Italian. I feel like he's gone past learning. Like
he does. He's taking Italian classes once a week, which I think is darling. And he's in the intermediate level classes, but he's really into it. And he, through his grandparents who, were born and raised in Italy, is now applying to get his citizenship. And then our daughter Vivian would get her citizenship by proxy. Yeah. But all I hear all day long is David pacing around the house learning Italian, because he goes to the classes but does it on the app. But it's actually really similar to Spanish. So sometimes he gets annoyed because he'll say something out loud in Italian and I can immediately translate it because Italian's so similar to Spanish. Yeah.
That's nice. I hope you guys go visit soon. I think that would be fun. I'll live vicariously through you.
I think we were going to go sooner than later, but I'm actually doing 2 cons in Australia in June, Supernova in Sydney and then Perth. And so that kind of ate into the idea of going, late May or early June, because I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks. But I think we're going to go. We'll go. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Maybe
he with you. Alone for 5 days to Rome. I think it's great. So he at least kind of got to go do that in practice, and he had a blast.
Well, anything in particular about tonight's episode that fans should know?
No, I just want to say, too, that we have such good villains this season. Chad Coleman, who's playing Bruno Mannheim, is amazing. And also, not yet, but sort of, in a couple more episodes, you're going to see Lex Luthor, which is really
which is incredible.
And Michael Cudlitz from The Walking Dead and a ton of other shows plays Lex Luthor, and he is so good. He's so good. It's alarming how good he is in this character. Tyler was filming a nighttime scene with him, and it was, I think, one of the first really big scenes we had with any dialogue. And you just don't know what he's going to do next, which is really fun as an actor because it keeps you on your toes and you have to be present. But there was a moment at the end of the night where he's like, I texted my wife and I was like, I don't know if she's really liking the performance, like me. I'm like, no, Michael, I was afraid of you. I was legitimately afraid. When we cut on the scene, I just kind of went and walked inside because he's just so great. And again, kudos to David Rappaport for being amazing and just filling out our cast so well. And
that's awesome. Well, and does he appear in tonight's episode?
He's a couple more down. Tonight's episode was directed by Alvaro Ron, who was great. And yeah, it's episode 7 out of 13. So hopefully if you haven't watched the show, you can start watching.
There's still time to catch up and be caught up for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Great. I know seasons 1 and seasons 2 are on HBO Max and also the CW app. And then season 3, if you haven't DVR'd it, would be available on the CW app.
Well, guys, make sure to tune in, catch up. The show is fantastic.
I miss you.
I'm so happy to see you. And thanks everyone for saying hey and asking questions. Any more questions before we go? Let me see if I can. Hi, hello everyone. I'm scrolling up. Keon, the questions about Keon. You got to stay tuned to see more about her this season. You need to extend your seasons like 20 episodes. I mean, we used to do 20 episodes of Flash. We used to do 23. It's a long, arduous season. I feel like 13's a good number.
I liked 15. a lot. It was great because then you still kind of have time off to go do other things and live your life. I too am used to coming off of Grimm. We did 22 episodes a season. And what's great about that is job security. But what stinks is you are so tired. I mean, it's like 10 months of filming and then you have 2 months off. And by the very, by the 21st, 22nd episode, everybody is just so burned out.
Exhausted. Yeah. Someone asked, what is your favorite episode for Lois?
There have been, as far as sort of emotional intensity and I would say there have been quite a few episodes this season. Second and third for sure. The most fun I have had was from season 1, and this is also a fan favorite. It was a flashback episode that was more me and meeting at the Daily Planet, and Greg Smith, who is amazing, who's our supervising producer. He directs most of our episodes. Also, he was the star of a show called Everwood, if anyone's seen that. But Greg Smith directed that one, and it was so fun. So that was probably the most fun we've ever had. And then season 2, there was a really fun episode. I think it was season 2, episode 10, that was a Bizarro episode. So I had a cool black wig.
Yeah. With the wig.
It was like just another sort of universe. So that one was probably my favorite, or the most fun I had season 2.
Oh, well, those are good ones. So guys, if you haven't seen them, be sure to check them out. The flashback episode, the Bizarro episode, and catch up for the rest of the season.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Bits. Thanks for all your questions. And hopefully see you soon.